Yeah, my name's Chris Teachout. I'm from Shenandoah, Iowa, which is the very southwest corner of Iowa. And I'm fifth generation farmer down there. My wife and I, we farmed there for, over 40 years. And today, we're up here in Bismarck, North Dakota at the Minokan farm and just sharing some of our knowledge and sharing some of our beliefs and what we can do and what opportunities there are to regenerate this earth. Yeah, I guess it all started was we were doing, my history goes back, back in the mid 80s, we were doing cover crops. They weren't called cover crops, it was just, I was aerial seeding cereal rye into standing corn. We used to have a cow herd, and I used it for winter forage. We'd also intensively graze it in the spring. So we'd do things like that, and we kind of got away from it for some reason. But anyway, then about 10 years ago, I started hearing about cover crops. Some of these meetings started poking up, and it's like, oh my gosh. My light bulb, instead of just going on, it just kind of exploded. Because it's like, oh, what I saw, what the soil was, the conditioning after the cereal rye, and what we were doing back then, it just all came and made sense. And so I jumped full board onto it because then I had an answer to a question or what I'd seen way back there in the mid 80s. So I jumped full board in and tried to figure out in a corn soybean rotation how to implement cover crops and diversity. And so we just kind of jumped whole hog into that, and then just with experience and going around to a lot of the different meetings, started meeting a lot of like-minded people and just formed networks and shared ideas, and then started getting asked for speaking engagements, and that just grew and grew from a local part of it. I remember one of the very first times I spoke or gave a presentation was down in south central Iowa, and Jay was there, and you were one of the speakers and gave your speech, and mine, what I was observing and what I was doing on the farm kind of matched up with what he was giving on a larger perspective. So I just, that's how it just kind of evolved, and then your word gets kind of passed around and showing what we're doing and how we're growing. Well, what we've seen change, just the aggregation of the soil by implementing these practices and growing cover crops. We've seen our infiltration rate, we measured about 5 years ago, and it was pretty decent. We got 1 inch of water in the ground in around 2 minutes. And, and that's a fairly good number. And then just last summer, we had some new hires for the NRCS out, and we were doing a training session for them. And so we did the water infiltration, and we started pouring in the first inch. The first inch only took 9 seconds. And then we continued, and we ran out of water bottles, but we were up to 5 inches of water in under 2 minutes. So our soils have really evolved where when we do get rainfall, we get it absorbed and stored into our soil. Some of the other things I've seen is we've been able to lower our fertilization, like P and K, by using some of the tests that are out there, the Haney test. And that way we've been able to save on money and make this more economical. We've just seen the plant health. We've backed away from fungicides and insecticides. We don't have to do that anymore. We have a really healthy, robust crop. And this year, going into it, we, like most people, have very limited rainfall. But we have a really beautiful crop because we've kind of managed the soil going down down the road so we could mitigate that stress. And so those are just, some of the attributes that we've seen. The changes, big changes. When we get into a wet cycle, we can go out there after a high rainfall event, walk across the field. And also, if it's a planting season, we can gain a day and a half, even almost 2 days of getting back into the field and not pushing it. but doing a good job of planting because we have a really good structured soil. So that's what I've seen, change for the positive, and just I can't stress the health that I'm seeing, and this year we have some of the darkest green color corn, and it's just stayed that way for a long time. So we've got a lot of, and we've worked on a lot of the biology in our soil and increasing that, and starting to see a lot of different things, trying to get it more fungal based instead of a highly bacterial soil, which a lot of tilled soils are highly bacterial. So we're trying to introduce some of our own inoculants and bring it back to life. Just one of the things I saw just a couple weeks ago, a toadstool out in the middle, it's a fruiting body of fungi, and it was like 6 to 8 inches in diameter. And so we're getting our soils more fungal, and the crops, they're showing that this year too. Yeah, I guess it all kind of starts out with a kind of if you're going down this path, you need a localized network of just your fellow farmers, your fellow peers. So as you get into it, when you have problems arise, you have somebody to go to on a local level. And then it's expanded for me, statewide, and then it went to clear across the nation, and with social media and going to different events, really connected with a lot of people to help you through some of these things. Or it's like, I think I've done something stupid here, help me out, and they do. They can help walk you off that edge of the cliff, and it's like, say, nope, okay, here's what you do. And then it's also gone kind of worldwide. I've been able to go overseas a few places and connect with those and share ideas. And it goes both ways. I was sharing some of my things, but I was picking up things from them. So, and then the word gets around, and connecting with everybody that the soil health movement progressed. And so there's just a lot of entities, they start to hear the name, or your name gets crossed over. And it's just mainly word of mouth advertising. And I'm very pleased to share with anybody that'll listen, or even people that said it won't work. I'd like to talk them through it. Let's find out something that does work. And I'm kind of the carbon and the carbon market is kind of all over the board, and everybody's trying to throw their dart at it. Right now, I think I'm kind of standing back and watch how it evolves. I'm not anxious to go out there and to sell carbon credits right now. I just want to have that conversation and go forward and see, can we be paid for the practices that we're doing instead of the carbon, or what can be measured, or what can we do scientifically to get that out there. Well, what I've done, I try to treat, I have quite a bit of cash rental ground, but I try to treat that as my own. Even though if we have just a 1 year or 2 year contract, but it seems like we've had those 1 and 2 year contracts for 15, 20 years and stuff. So I'm very comfortable with those. And then I have conversation, even have a little PowerPoint that I'll share with the landlords. And I know one time I had a meeting with them, and I was sharing what I was doing, and even taking some really rough ground out of production, a small percentage of the acres that I was renting from them, and taking that out of production, doing a full cover on that, and terminating it and let it regrow, and to rebuild the soil there. And after that conversation, they had a puzzled look, and they were like, well, shouldn't we be paying for it? And I said, no. I says, you don't have to. It's a small percentage, but I'm gaining in the long term by improving your soil. And I want to be a true steward of that. And so it just makes that relationship. And that's what it is, the relationship. You build on that. So that trust and longevity just kind of happens. I guess some of the difference is I want to, have that good communication with the landlords and the land that I have that I'm renting from. If I have, and I have when I've downsized, had some that they weren't in tuned into this, they were just in tune to the dollar figure, what they're getting. And so it's like, we weren't matching up. So it was a good time, we, parted on good terms, but it was, they aren't going to be seeing what I'm seeing or how to really take care of their soil. So that's how it's just kind of a natural sort. I guess you can go down that road and try to keep it and do some of this, or maybe not do it on their farms. But if you go that route and then somehow they find out about this new regeneration of the soils and you aren't doing it on their farm, then it causes clashes down the road. But so I'd rather be proactive and do it on all my acres and share with them what I'm doing. Again, it comes back to the relationship, and getting the bankers out there. They have their annual tour, they come to our farm, and I show them, and every year show them something different that I'm doing, or what is happening to the soil and the crops. And they're starting to see these, and when they come back, they remember and they ask those questions specific to what you're doing. So it creates a really good relationship. And so if you're young and starting out, you better have somebody in your back corner too as a peer group to help you out, and then convey that to your lenders. It's like, okay, I'm kind of following along these, and we're going to start out slow and not, put a lot of risk out there, but let's go and work into this. And there are some financial institutions that they aren't interested in this. So it's like, well, you're at the wrong institution. So you need to find, it's just like the landlords and stuff. You need to kind of find that right one that you can communicate and have that relationship with. I guess, going down this road, grew up, we used to plow, disc, field cultivate, just really terrorize the soil out there. And then, in the early 90s, we got into no-till. And then, when it came to cover crops later, and I've just enjoyed that transition. And after I'd got out of livestock in the late or early 2000s, then after the livestock were gone, and then I kind of weaned myself off of the hay business, then I found myself a boring corn and soybean farmer from Iowa. But right about that time, that's when I went to one of the first meetings with the cover crops. And it's like I said, my light bulb just exploded. And so then it brought the excitement back. And I'm having fun at doing it and seeing the results out there, seeing the life in the soil, seeing the healthy plants. Because I want healthy plants, healthy soil, correlates on down the line to healthy food and healthy people. So that's what I see, and that's what keeps me going in this. I've been at it 41 years of farming. I wish I had another 41 to go, to continue with all the ideas.